We should be preparing ourselves for the future, preparing ourselves for easy deals in business. And I think we can prepare ourselves in a couple of ways. And that preparation begins with our character. And so for us to be ready for all of God's blessings, ready to be received in the marketplace, I think it's really important for us to focus on development of our character, meaning who are we? How are we showing up? What level of integrity are we bringing to the marketplace?
Hey guys, welcome back to the Certain Success Podcast. I'm your host, Matt Fagioli, and today I have an awesome friend as a guest, and I think we have a fun subject for you. And this is about how God drops clients in your lap. Everybody always says, how do you, how do I put God first? And like, if I focus on all that, like, where's the business going to come from? Well, it like literally falls from the sky. And a cool thing was that this happened to me yesterday and happened to Justin yesterday. So we're going to talk about it. So welcome, Justin Janowski. What's up?
Thanks for having me. This is fun already.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. And we've been connecting recently, talking, and I think we're going to do 27 podcasts, but I was like, what are we going to talk about? And I'm like, and we get on the phone and I was telling you what happened to me yesterday. You were like, I had the same thing happen to me. So, all right. So you go first. Tell me your God story about how the business dropped in your lap yesterday.
Yeah, so I was introduced via email, and you had a very similar experience 6 months ago by a friend of mine to a potential prospect, and somehow I missed the email. I was in a period of transition with my team members, and I had somebody who was monitoring my email, and then they weren't, and I took over, and I was a little bit disorganized and chaotic during that month of January. And so I somehow missed that email. And in June, I was going back through old emails, cleaning out my inbox, and I found this email introduction. And I sent a message to the gentleman, and I said, oh my gosh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm sorry I never followed up on this before, but I would love to meet with you if you're still open to it. And he agreed to meet. And we spoke last week briefly, but he was with family. He was traveling. He lost reception. We barely got to know each other. And so we booked a call for this week, for yesterday. And it was scheduled for an hour. He sent the calendar invite. And 5 minutes before the call, I noticed he switched it to a 30-minute call slot. And so that showed how much he was looking forward to the call, I suppose. And we ended up talking for like an hour and 5 minutes. And it turns out that like he's right now in this very season, my perfect ideal client. He had some changes take place in his business. He wouldn't have needed me in January. Right now, he absolutely needs me, and we're going to do work together. And it was just a blessing. And he felt like it was a God thing too. He's like, oh my gosh, just amazing that we didn't talk in January and that we're talking right now, right when I need you.
Yeah, man. The whole idea that God's going to deliver the right business at the right time. But when we talk about that in the abstract, it's sometimes it's a little hard to trust, and you're like, what? Like, is that really a thing? And then you see it happen all the time, and then you forget about it. So at least we're going to have this one recorded. Well, what happened on my side is so similar. It's ridiculous. So literally 6 months ago, I guess it's 7 months, it was in December that I now realize I had this email. These guys called me Monday. Hey, Matt, we want to talk to you about X. Awesome. Love to talk to you. Had a great conversation. The guy says, hey, I'll call you on Wednesday when I get back in town. I'm going to Atlanta. The guy doesn't know that I live in Atlanta. I was like, I'm in Atlanta, right? He goes, what? Yada, yada. They come down. We have this amazing dinner last night. The kind of dinner where like I left and I'm like, these are now my best friends in the world. We talked about 1,000 things that weren't business. Of course we talked some about business, but it was just one of the most amazing connections. So I come home this morning, I'm digging for the email from the other day. So I searched the guy's name in my email, and up comes this email from December where the guy had sent me this big long introduction. Hey, we'd really like to work with you and blah, blah, blah. Cricket, no response from me at all. We were traveling. I just missed it, just straight missed it. And I'm like, that is so unbelievable that God would be like, hey, I really was trying to give you this client and I'm going to bring it back just at the right time. And dude, it's gold. Anyway,
Super cool. Yeah,
yeah,
that's how God works. Sometimes, I used to hear this idea that sometimes God will try to send us a message with a feather, and like we might feel just like this little brushing of a feather, and if we don't listen, then maybe He'll send a brick, and if we don't listen, then maybe He'll send a truck. It can be good or bad. By the way,
yeah.
this analogy, the feather, the brick, and the truck. But wouldn't it be nice if we learn to trust and to receive when God sends the feather?
Man, I love that. Yeah, I always talk
Sometimes
about it similarly in the like God has to hit me with a 2x4. They're like, oh, I got it. Okay, I got your attention. And Justin, that I'm trying to finish my book, and I talk a lot in the book about sort of the Bruce Almighty analogy, right? Like, God, give me a sign, and then there's like a truck full of signs, going by that say stop, stuff like that.
Mhm.
It's crazy. So,
Yeah.
tell me what you think about that in the larger context. I mean, you're so well spoken. I love your podcast about how you're so good at articulating how these things work in the real world, in the sales world. And when I started this conversation, intending to do this podcast with you, I was going to go straight at the sales piece because that's your,
Mhm.
you're such a sweet spot for you. So, I know I'm catching you a little off guard. This is completely unscripted, but in the context of sort of letting God drive the bus, can you think of a couple things that we can do to sort of open the door for that or maybe catch the ball better when it happens? Any thoughts?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. So I'll say this, that part of being ready is preparation. We should be preparing ourselves for the future, preparing ourselves for easy deals in business. And I think we can prepare ourselves in a couple of ways. And this is going to make business easier for us a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. And that preparation begins with our character. And so, for us to be ready for all of God's blessings, ready to be received in the marketplace, ready to be referred in the marketplace, or have people seeking us out, I think it's really important for us to focus on development of our character, meaning who are we? How are we showing up? What level of integrity are we bringing to the marketplace? My friends Tommy Breedlove and Chris Tuff talk about being a net giver in the marketplace. Can we be more generous? Can we try to outgive everybody else in relationship with them? And as we give, we make the referral for someone, we support someone, we generously give to a cause, we tithe, we show up with honesty and integrity and do the right thing by people, especially when money's involved. Like those things will build and compound over time and develop our reputation to the place that people want to work with us. And it's easier for God to bring people in front of us and for them to just receive the presence of our identity and say, man, I really want to work with this person. Like you have these people who just really, whatever reason, they wanted to work with you. And it's a reflection of who you are, that they naturally trusted you and it was easy for them to want to work with you and do business. The other part of preparation is developing a skill set. And so for me, I know that skill set's sales. And it might be that your skill set is the thing that you're going to coach people on. Maybe you've developed a marketing skill set. Maybe it's sales. Maybe it's relationships. Maybe it's health and fitness. But if you've developed a skill set and you're continually developing your skill set in the area that you're going to coach people in, that's going to make it a lot easier for people to find you. And additionally, though, like there are certain business skill sets all of us should develop, which sales is one of them. We need to be prepared to receive an opportunity and convert it into an actual sale, an actual paying client who we can have significant impact on over time. But then, along with preparation of developing our skill sets, developing our character, it's super important for us to be praying, for God to deliver business to us. Like, I pray very specifically for God to bless my business, for Him to bless us financially, for Him to bring in the right clients and the right sales, the right opportunities. When I'm in seasons of deep prayer around that, God brings more and more surprising opportunities my way. And then the final thing I'll suggest is we must also be in action. And so we can't just be praying and thinking, oh, God's going to do this for me. God can bless us so much more easily when we are taking massive action. So I think we want to really combine prayer with massive action. And that means prospecting. It means meeting people. It means having conversations. It means putting ourselves out there in the marketplace. It might be marketing on social media, or doing a Facebook Live, or running a podcast, or whatever it is, like allowing ourselves to be seen and be in action. So I think when we combine the preparation of our character and our skill sets with real prayer and real action, God blesses us abundantly.
Dude, that is some gold, that whole package. Thank you. I'm so glad that you brought us back to prayer, because that's been a big deal for me. And I want to be more specific so that I can, because of course prayer is a big deal, but I have of late been intentionally asking God to bring the business that way. I want it to present itself. And I'm praying like that. And for me, I don't know if this rings true with you or anybody listening to this, but for most of my life, I didn't think that was okay. I was like, I can't ask that God that. Like, He's going to be like, go get that business, man. Like, what do you mean? What do you mean you want me to do it? And I finally was like, you know what? I'm just going to tell you what I want. Like, I want God, you to bring me, and I have a number. I'm not going to say it, but like, I have a number. I'm like, I would like you to please bring me this amount of business per month. It's not that I'm not willing to work for it, but I want it to come just the way it came yesterday. And it was such an answer prayer. And I did thank Him this morning for that specifically, but my mind didn't immediately go to it in this podcast. You brought it there. So thank you. But anyway, what do you think about that little bit, that little rant?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that we find it very easy to pray thanks and gratitude for the things that God's giving us. Hopefully we do. And I think most people find it easy to pray for health, pray for other people's health, pray over our marriages or our kids. But when it comes time to actually pray for the thing that we want, the thing that we're working towards so many hours a day, somehow we feel like we can't pray for that. And I just want to remind everyone listening that God already knows the desires of our hearts. And so if you're working hard to build a business that is good, that does good, that serves people well, and that compensates you, and you've got a financial goal that's going to allow you to provide for your family at a higher level, it's going to allow you to give more to your church and your community and people in need, that's going to potentially provide jobs and opportunities for people. If you want that to succeed and you want more income, you want more impact through your business, God already knows that you want that. You're not hiding it from Him. And so if He already knows it, why are we acting like we're trying to hide it from Him? Why aren't we having that conversation? God, please bless my business. I'm praying consistently. God, please bless Faith to Influence. Help us to grow. And God, as you bless me and my business, help me to become more and more of a blessing to my family, to my community, to my clients, to my church, and to the kingdom. In Jesus' name, amen. And I think some of us have old stories about money, that making money is bad, that money is the root of all evil. The Bible actually says the love of money. If we make it an idol, it's a problem, right? But if we use it as a tool, it can be really good. And so we might want to just check and have an awareness around our stories about money. And, if we've got healthy stories around money, we'll probably feel good about having conversations with God about it. If we've got stories that need to be healed, we're going to have a little bit of resistance there. My story around money is the more I earn, the more I can give. And so I don't have any resistance around earning. I want to earn as much as I can so I can give as much as I can.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, everything you said resonates with me, but this thing of late that has really clicked for me, and I think it's helpful to people too, is like, get really specific. And it's not, there's no poverty in it. So it's like, God, it's not, oh God, please take care of us and give me enough. It's like, here's the number that I've kind of come up with as my goal. That goal puts me in a good place to feed my family and save and give and all the things. Like, this is the number. It's a big number. God, show me how to do that. Put those opportunities in my lap that are exactly the kind of business that I want to do. You said earlier when you were talking about this thing for you yesterday that it was your ideal client at the moment. And that's what I was talking about with my people. Last time, like, these are literally the exact people that I want to be around, that I want to work with. And here God has, made them fly across the country, buy me an amazing dinner, drive all the way across the city when they got here to have dinner with me, and then leave happy that they did it. I'm like, this is awesome. Anyway.
Super cool. Super cool. This is an aside, but I haven't had a chance to tell many people about this yet. I think I've told 2 people so far, and I want to tell you because I think you'll think it's interesting. I also had a conversation yesterday with someone who wants to introduce me to a company that needs sales support. And she asked, "Are you willing to sell things outside of like high ticket coaching packages?" I said, "Well, maybe. What do you want me to sell? What would it be?" She said, "Well, I've got a client that she does marketing for that just moved on from their salesperson. They need some sales support, and they sell private jets.
Oh, that's terrible.
Private jets. They make about 18 sales a year, apparently. I don't know how it all works. I've definitely never sold anything like that. But I said, absolutely, I'd be interested in that. So I may be introduced, and of course, I'll update you if I end up becoming a private jet salesperson and see how that goes. But God likes to bring interesting opportunities in front of us sometimes as well. And of course, we need discernment to say like, is that for me or not? I'd like to take a look at it. Sounds pretty fun.
But certainly, I mean, and I think that kind of brings me to another rant or related thing that I've been passionate about, which is, every time I have any kind of coaching conversation, like, I'm always just immediately going to like, what is it that you want? Are you clear at all about what you actually want? Because if you're not praying intently about what you like, I'm getting crystal clear, like, God, I want, somebody that's in this specific, like I said, exactly the person that I want. And I'll give you a non-business example. I have a good friend who this goes back a long ways, but his wife passed away, and he was passionately seeking a new, spouse, and he wrote out these like elaborate 3x5 cards that described this person in such granular detail that I couldn't even fathom it. And then he just prayed it every day for years, a couple years anyway. And then it happened. And then it's like, he was like, this is literally exactly. And so I think you put that in the sales context. It's like, well, what if half of it is just, I mean, I don't know about you, Justin, but most people I talk to are just not clear about what they want.
Mm-hmm.
And if that could somehow get worked out and you could have that kind of clarity, it's like, what if you got up every day and your ideal customer avatar was written out in granular detail and you prayed it every day?
Yeah, that's so good. Well, and the reality is like this is the kind of conversations we need to be having when we're having a sales conversation. Sales when done right is just coaching. Sales when done right feels like leadership. It might even feel like love. It can be a significantly valuable opportunity and conversation for the other person, whether they buy or not. And so if we're having a great sales conversation, we're helping people gain more clarity and verbally express what they want. When we're doing sales, we're oftentimes wanting to have a period of discovery where we're asking questions about the present and past so we get to understand where someone is and where they've been and how they got to this point. But then if we know where they're at, we need to have the conversation about the vision of what they want. What is their ideal vision in whatever area we're working in? Maybe it's their marriage. What would their ideal marriage feel like? If they could show up any way inside of that relationship, what would it be like? Or maybe it's what would their business look like in the most ideal form? What would they really like their business to be producing income wise? What would they like their structure to be like? The amount of hours they're working? Like, the more specific we can get, like those note cards you're talking about, the better. Or if you're a health and fitness coach, what would they like their health and fitness to look like? How would they like to feel each day? What would their emotional experience be at their very best? And if we help people get really clear on what they want and express it out loud, there's power even in that. They begin to desire it even a little bit more by saying it out loud, by recognizing it. And then our brain begins to find ways to pursue and solve the problem. Like, we're very smart heart. We're hardwired this way, and God, it makes it easier for us to. It's easier for God to bless us, I think, if we're looking for what we want. Because oftentimes, how many times is God probably trying to bless us and we're just missing it because we're not looking for the right things? And so I think that clarity allows God to bless us. And even if there's a non-Christian listening to this, like one of the first personal development books I listened to in my life was called Think and Grow Rich, and an incredible book, honestly. Like I don't agree with every word in the pages, but most of it like really spoke to me, and a lot of it has really resonated and supported my career. But part of the idea of it is that we need to think about something first, desire something first, see it, imagine it first, and then we'll start to find the solutions, and we'll start to take the right actions, and all of those things can fall into place. And again, like I said, it becomes a little bit easier for us to receive God's blessings because we can see them, if we can see where we're going. So if we can give somebody the gift of that on a sales call, saying like, what do they really want, but then get into the question of what's the gap, what's the challenge, what's really standing in the way or preventing them from having that. And if we can discover the primary problem, the primary challenge they need to solve, and they can commit to solving that problem, well, then maybe if we have a solution to that problem, they'll want to hire us and work with us, and it'll be really easy and really fun and a total win-win. But if they didn't decide to work with us, if it wasn't a fit for whatever reason, and we help them get really clear on what they want and get really clear on the problem they need to solve to get what they want, and we help them commit to solving that problem, we've given them a gift. And that's going to change their life forever. And naturally, many of those people, if we've got the right service, we're talking to qualified prospects, they're going to want to do that work with us after we've given them this gift.
Mm. Well, there's two things, a bunch of things you said there, but there's two things I want to chime in on and get your thoughts about. But my good friend Barry Jenkins, you remind me of him in a way because he wrote a book called Too Nice for Sales, and he's amazing at sales, incredibly successful, but takes this incredibly nice approach. And but one of the things he talked about was what a disservice you're doing to the person on the other end of the phone if you are afraid and you're like panicking and just want to get off the phone, and you never get to what is this customer's need, what do they want, what are they, how can I solve their problem? And sometimes when you get on the phone with somebody, they're not immediately going to go to that. And if you're operating out of fear and scarcity, you're going to run from that conversation instead of diving deeper. And, lots of salespeople think, well, if I'm diving deeper, now I'm bugging them, or I'm being pushy, and you could bug them and be pushy if you did it wrong. But if you're just coming from a place of like, I'm just trying to figure out how to help you, what is it that you want? And, at some point, that can go too far, but I think most salespeople shy away from that way too quickly. What do you think about when I say that?
Yeah, I really think that it's important for us to be bold. If you're a coach, you're an entrepreneur, you're a leader, you've got this gift that God's given you to help and serve people. Let's not hide that thing away. Let's be bold. I think we need to ask the bold, courageous, curious next question. And I also know that emotion is really contagious. And so, Matt, if you show up on a sales call and you're scared, nervous, etc., you're experiencing a lot of self-doubt, the other person's going to feel some of that. We all know emotion's contagious because we watch a movie and we feel the emotion of the characters in the movie. It's not even a person real in front of us. It's a replay of something that's already happened. But like, if we come in with that fear, that anxiety, that nervousness, that self-doubt, our prospect's going to feel that, and it doesn't create a good buying atmosphere. It hijacks their opportunity to learn and grow and get what they need. Whereas if we show up with confidence and peace and love and ease, they're going to feel a lot more of that as well. It's going to make it a lot easier for the right people to say yes.
Well, what I love about you and Barry and people that do it the right way is that you can be bold and confident, and that isn't arrogant, pushy, or overbearing. None of those things. And I think that a lot of people don't understand that there's two different sides of that coin that are both very, very both sides of that coin say stay on the phone. One of them's the right
Mm,
way and one of them's the wrong way, but neither one of those sides says bail, or
right.
back
Right.
off. The other thing that you said that I wanted to key on is Think and Grow Rich, which I have devoured many, many times over. And because I think that I, right or wrong, I felt for a long time as a Christian that, like, yeah, anything in the realm of money, anything that wasn't like straight up the middle scripture was like I should just ignore all of that. And now I don't think that way. I think everything has value if you shine the light of scripture on it and go, like, what are the parts of this that are right? Or how can I use everything that's in that book within the context of, selling ethically and, following my faith and thinking about how I can serve the person on the other end of the phone the best, and all of that. There's actually a good bit in that book that I had missed the first couple times I read it about how people have used those principles to. There's one example of a U.S. senator and other great successes that have nothing to do with making a gajillion dollars. It was
Mhm.
just the power of those principles and the mind that God gave us to use, that our piece of it that we all kind of seem to want to just set on the shelf and go, oh no, I'm a Christian now, I can't think that way.
Mm. Yeah, that's really interesting. I think that there are a lot of occasions where, as Christians with good intentions, we want to be thoughtful about what we consume. Very important, very valuable idea. And yet so many of us are just consuming ad nauseum social media opinions from people. Every time we have a moment where we could take a break and we could think, or we could pray, or we could process ourselves, we're just filling our head with what other people think on social media. Uh, so there's a little tangent, but we're pretty distracted. We might need a little bit more presence, a little more time with God, a little bit more time with our own thoughts. That said, I think it's relevant, it's healthy for us to be discerning in who and what we allow to influence us, which books we read, which people we listen to, what movies we watch. I think it's relevant. And I know that some Christians are probably taking that lesson, that discernment, a little too far, and they're closing themselves off to things that could support them, that could help them have a more empowering life, that can help them provide greater leadership, that could help them be better parents, be better spouses, be better business leaders, serve people at a higher level. I mean, simple things like meditation. Because meditation has roots in other religions, so many Christians like close themselves off to the idea of meditation or yoga or something like that, when all it really is breathing and stretching and being still and getting space away from technology and all the distractions. And Jesus walked off into the woods all the time to sit and meditate and just spend time with God and breathe and be still.
And
He
just
wasn't in
he
a
might not have used that word, but it's super the
right.
same. Dude, I'm
Yeah,
so
didn't use that
glad
word,
you
but same
so
thing.
so glad you used that example, because I
Mhm.
feel exactly the same way. It's like, why not take advantage of the best parts of what everybody is talking about, and put Jesus in the middle of that, shine that light on and go like, well, which parts of these am I going to handle, and which parts am I not? In a previous conversation, you and I were talking about this person or that person, and I was like, well, that guy's not my cup of tea. That doesn't mean that everything the guy says is wrong. Like 80% of what he says I agree with or whatever. And so, there's value in all of those pieces. So, um,
I
uh,
regularly read a book or listen to a speaker and think, not everything they say is for me, but a lot of it is, or some of it is. And those pieces are valuable to me.
yeah, everyone is valuable, and it's
Mhm.
just that filter, And I want to chime on that tangent, that social media tangent too, because I found myself like really guilty of just like too much like Instagram and like whatever and all that like random voices, even though I've done a pretty good job of curating my social to where like the stuff that's in my feed is mostly really good stuff that people, if I read something, if I'm following somebody and I read something that's like not, unless I really dig that person, like I'm not going to follow them anymore, to try to clean that up. But anyway, recently I've been on this crazy schedule where I'm trying to finish my books. I'm waking up at like super early in the morning, 3:00 in the morning to write, because that's what works for me. But anyway, the last week or two, since I started doing that, I've noticed that I get up and my brain's like, literally like quick prayer, book. I'm in this like weird news cycle. Well, there's no social in that cycle. And I've like actually noticed, I'm like, oh, like there's no junk in my brain, in the morning, where sometimes there would be, anyway. So I just wanted to share, because I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, it's interesting. I never know what's going to come out of my mouth when we're having a conversation like this. I think we've covered a lot of interesting bases and topics, and you and I know this, but the listeners don't know. I didn't know we were going to record the podcast today. In fact, last week we had a call. We were going to record a podcast. That was my expectation coming in. Instead, we just talked. We just caught up and got to know each other a little bit better. And this week I thought we were just going to catch up and get to know each other. And then we had an opening conversation the first minute. You're like, you know what? Let's click record. Let's do this podcast thing. And so you're right. It's just a really organic, really authentic conversation. And it's cool to see what God brings through conversation when we're with good people.
Yeah, dude, it was so good. Thanks so much, man, for being here. Thanks to everybody for checking out the Certain Success podcast. And if you dug today's episode, please follow and like, and get on Apple Podcasts and drop a review for Certain Success. And I'll see you back here soon.